Let's start with that breaking news that a person has been detained in connection with the knife attack in Germany, which left 3 people dead and 8 seriously injured. This follows an overnight manhunt. A motive for the attack is still not clear. Joining me now is Travis Frain, campaigner for the Resilience in Unity project. Travis, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Can you just explain very briefly what the Resilience in Unity project is actually about?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, Dawn. So I set up the Resilience in Unity project during the back end of the pandemic. We'd heard a lot at the time about an increased risk of radicalisation. Of course, people were online. There's lots of conspiracy theorists, and there's a lot larger I suppose, base of people for extremists to target, but we weren't hearing a lot about what people were actually going to do to challenge that extremist rhetoric. And so I, as someone who was personally being affected by terrorism, decided that the people who were best placed to challenge that rhetoric were the people who are victims of terrorism themselves. And so the project essentially attempts to amplify the voices of people like myself who've been affected by terrorism and get these into the room in those discussions around counter-terrorism.
What can you just tell us briefly what happened to you? What incident were you involved with?
So I was injured in the Westminster Bridge terrorist attack in March 2017, and I was just 19 years old at the time. I'm not from London, as you can probably tell by the accent, and I was just down there for a few days with my university on a trip. And as I recovered from the physical injuries I sustained, I felt a real feeling that I had to do something about this topic, had to learn more and try and do what I could to help others who were in my position, which has set me on the path I'm on now.
Right, OK, Travis, now obviously the incident in Germany, we don't know the motive yet. Somebody has been arrested. We know 3 people have lost their lives, 8 are injured. It happened at a music festival that 75,000 people were expected to attend. It should have been obviously a very happy weekend. Now, obviously, I want to talk to you because we're not saying, we don't know the motive for this. I'm not saying it's terrorism in any way, shape or form. But you have some experience of what it's like to be in a situation where you're attacked when you're just going about your business, these poor people at this festival. I mean, can you just paint a little picture for us of what it's actually like to be in a situation? I mean, you must feel helpless, terror. It must be awful.
Absolutely. It's, it's an experience I wouldn't wish on anyone. Regardless, I think, of whether or not this is declared as an act of terrorism, the impact, certainly at this stage, on those people affected will be much the same as it was in my own case. You can just imagine walking down the streets, no one would ever assume to be involved in an act of terrorism. I knew very little about these issues. I knew very little about sort of, I suppose, crime in general. And to actually be on the receiving end of something like this at random is incredibly traumatizing, and it also, I think, shatters a sense of safety that we all grow up with. We grow up with this, I think, feeling, perhaps rightly or wrongly, of invulnerability, and actually it shatters that immediately, and it really forces you to confront your own vulnerability, and that's something that I think we don't take enough time to actually reflect upon, because it's something that has a deep impact upon those people affected, and not just psychologically, but actually the physical impacts of this. They are going to have to spend many months attempting to recover from some very serious injuries. And that is something that I wouldn't wish on anyone.
And Travis, obviously we're in the middle of festival season in the UK now. I mean, we've got, Leeds and Reading going on this weekend. We've got the Notting Hill Carnival coming up on Sunday and Monday. How does it feel? As I said, this is not because we are assuming this is anything. We don't know the motives for this attack, but we're just talking about what it's like to be involved in something like this. How does it make you feel when you read or when a news story breaks about this sort of incident?
Well, it's difficult. It's a constant reminder, and unfortunately, that is a hallmark of both terrorism and crimes like this in general. Regardless of whether or not this in Germany is declared as an act of terrorism, the incident is so similar to my own that many victims, like myself and other people who've been in similar attacks, will be instantly catapulted back into that situation they were in so many years ago. This is something that I think I would like to say, experiencing something like this certainly puts you on guard. It gives you a heightened sense of security or insecurity, perhaps. But I don't think it should be a reason not to go out and to to enjoy and to visit these concerts and these festivals. There's one thing I learned, and it took me a long time to learn this after the attack, many years, but actually it happened when I met with the people who'd lost loved ones in my attack. I learned very quickly after meeting them that the one thing we can all do to actually ensure that we're remembering their memory, to ensure that we're, not letting this change our way of life, is to actually make the most of our lives and to actually really go out there and really, take these things head on, because we can't hide away and we cannot be in the shadows, afraid of something to happen.
Wise words indeed. Travis, how do people get in touch with your organisation if they feel like they need to?
Well, we offer a range of free resources, and we'd direct anyone to just go to resilienceandunity.com to get in contact with us. We organise events with survivors across the country, and we're always keen to get these voices out there and to amplify those real-life testimonies. So thank you for having me on.
Thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate your time. That's Travis Frain, campaigner at Resilience in Unity Project. And as you just heard, at the very least, Google it. If you feel like you need help, you want to talk to somebody, get in touch with Travis's organisation. Thank you very much, Travis. Now, I have my wonderful panel with me this hour, Joe Phillips and Reem Ibrahim. Obviously, we don't know what's happened in Germany. We don't know the reasons behind this. All we know is that people went out on a Friday night to go to a festival, as many people will be going this weekend, and it ended in tragedy. Joe, apart from obviously, thoughts with all those affected, what do you make of this latest incident where people going out and trying to enjoy themselves?
This has always happened, Dawn. I mean, you and I are old enough, sadly, to remember the days of IRA...
I love you, Joe. Thank you.
but of IRA bomb threats and IRA reality. In the days before there were mobile phones, before there was email, before there was social media. But, we'd go, should we go to work? Should we... we still don't have litter bins on stations.
Yes.
Because of the threat of, which is a bit ridiculous, but that's another story. I think it's really, really important. When we saw what happened after idiots going on social media after the Southport stabbings, starting speculating and talking about stuff that was absolutely not true, there is nothing that we can say here that is going to shine any light on what has happened in Germany, because we don't know. We don't know whether the person who has been arrested is the alleged perpetrator. We don't know anything else. We don't know whether it's terrorism. We don't know whether it's somebody with mental health issues. We don't know anything about it. So I think let's stop the speculation. Let's be realistic. Anything that you do, any of us do, whether it's going, on a crowded bus or in an airport or to a concert or anything like that, these terrible things happen for any number of reasons. People with grudges, people with mental health issues, all sorts of things, and accidents. But, we only have to look. We just heard Sam in the news, we're talking about the terrible, tragic capsize of a yacht.
Yeah.
A super yacht that belonged to a very wealthy man. That is, at the moment, a tragic accident. And it just goes to show that these awful things can affect anybody at any time. You just have to be sensible. But the worst possible thing that we can do is to stoke up any sense that, you've got an odd name, you might be a terrorist. You've got a rucksack, you look a bit dodgy. You're Irish, you might be a throwback.
I don't think anybody is seriously doing that. I will first of all say, obviously, for all of those victims, I think to them and their families, for those that have survived and are injured, I think it is incredibly difficult to go through something like that. And we've just heard from Travis the impact it has on your life. I've got to say, I think that we're sort of muddling up different situations here. Tragedies happen, but these sorts of situations are not tragedies. They are intentional. Know. They are intentional events that happen as a result of somebody perpetrating them. And I think people are right to be worried about these sorts of people that are in their country that might be causing these particular issues.
But you're just
and
fueling.
I'm not fueling anything.
You don't know anything
I'm not fueling
about
anything.
This person.
Of course we don't know anything about this person.
So why do you say this person in your country?
No. So the German case Absolutely. We have no idea who that person is. We have no idea what their intention is, and I don't think we should be speculating. However, you brought up the Southport killings, and actually the fact that we talk about them in an incredibly emotional way because they are incredibly emotionally motivated. We saw what happened as a result of it. I think that, again, many of those protests, or indeed throwing bricks at mosques, that kind of thing is absolutely abhorrent and should not be happening in this country. But people are concerned about why we have people in this country that are coming here without a criminal background check, without knowing who those particular people are. Now, these are entirely separate issues, but I think by conflating them, we are taking away the fact that many people in this country are concerned, and rightfully so.
Well, you've just conflated it and done exactly.
Well, you brought up the Southport killings and the protests, so I responded to that particular point.
Because what happened, the riots were a direct result of misinformation, disinformation, and stirring up on social media with lies and with claims that this person was an illegal migrant or an asylum seeker.
Which turned out not to be the case. That's true.
Which turned out not to be the case. And when you start talking and you even just put these things out there, Reem, about, people in your country, what the hell does that mean?
No, it's not about that.
But you just said it.
No. The fact of the matter is, in your initial statement, you conflated the fact that actually the Southport killings and the protests, they had that connection.
No, what
there.
I said was we shouldn't
be stirring up misinformation. Absolutely. Going out on social media and saying that these particular people are from X, Y, and Z country, or they might be an illegal immigrant, is stirring up things, and it's absolutely untrue. And it ended up not being the case. However, we shouldn't be taking away the fact that there are many people in this country that are afraid of the types of people that might be coming here, and are afraid of the fact that actually people are crossing the channel with no criminal background check, with absolutely no idea who they are. Now, I say this as somebody who comes from North Africa. My grandparents are Moroccan and Egyptian. I think that immigration is brilliant. I think it's wonderful. I think it builds this country. I think it's great for the economy.
There are people walking the streets of Britain who haven't had criminal checks, who are just as dangerous.
Absolutely, but the difference is that they were brought up here. There are different cultures that, I'm sorry, are not compatible with British culture, and I think we have to have those honest conversations. And actually, it's not racist or abhorrent to say those things. We can separate this. I know we started this conversation talking about the incident in Germany. We can have conversations about that, and I think that you are right. We shouldn't be speculating, but we cannot take away the fact that many people in this country are afraid. You mentioned Notting Hill Carnival this weekend. Every single year, somebody gets stabbed at Notting Hill Carnival. Every single year.
Yes,
we have to be
afraid.
Many
people are afraid of lots of other things. They are afraid of white British thugs throwing bricks at them because they happen to be Asians, or because they're going to a mosque. They're frightened and terrorised by men who are misogynist and vile. They're frightened of all sorts of things. We don't need to turn everything back to immigration. We need to say, really bad things happen. We don't always know the reasons for it. We don't know about Germany. We don't even know about Southport. We don't know what was behind that. But what we have to do as people is not regard everybody as a potential threat, because that just stokes fear, and it stokes hatred, and that's what you saw in Southport.
As a young woman that walks in London, I will consider, at night at least, every single person a potential threat.
Well, Reem, can I tell you, I was stabbed in the neck in London several years ago, and what Travis was just saying, it changes your life completely.
Of course it does.
Because I absolutely hate walking in the dark. I can't bear being in closed-up streets or anything like that. And it really frightens you, and it changes you completely. But that's got nothing to do with immigration.
Can I just ask what the circumstances were, Jo?
I was walking home from the tube, and the irony, Dawn, that I had been living and working in the Middle East, and I'd been home 3 days. And it was a completely unprovoked attack, and it wasn't a knife, it was a sharpened screwdriver in my neck. Oh,
my God, I'm so sorry. That's
you don't
awful.
have to be sorry. I mean, it's just, when people talk about knife crime, well, you don't need a knife to stab somebody.
And that was just a random attack?
Just a random attack.
So, and you don't feel safe going out and about now?
Not at night.
No.
No. And the worst thing is runners, joggers, or people walking behind you.
I think we all do need to be
more aware. We all feel afraid.
But I do think it's really important that, we recognise that we're fearful, and we have those conversations with people like Travis has done and like I have done, that, you can be frightened, but you mustn't see everybody. I don't see every young man as a potential threat.
So I see your point, and I think that as somebody who has actually experienced this, you can speak more to this than I can. I do think, though, as a young woman that often is walking alone at night, I have to perceive everybody as a potential threat.
Oh, absolutely.
And in addition to that, I will say that, and I don't want to make this particularly about immigration, but there are certain cultures in the world that are particularly misogynist and misogynistic, and those particular cultures, I think, in some cases, tend to manifest into violence.
Unfortunately, ladies, we do have to move on, but we are coming back to a similar debate very soon in this show, because I'm glad I've got you both on, because I think you both make very valid points on that particular one.